Hi folks, welcome to session number 12 of Electronic Music Reviews with Scotch&Grey. In the background, our Steven, as always busy with untwisting the cables and moving faders. Say hi Stevie.
Hi Stevie.
Imagine you want to create a painting, but it should show many things, reflect many emotions, piece by piece and always one thing at a time. You want to capture a mood in your painting. The feeling of a dance through a night, the silence after that night. You want to paint how you lean back exhausted, how the vibrations of the loud basses and crazy melodies still resonate in your body. But you also want to return gently to reality at some point. So you take a really big canvas, you take many colors, many nuances, and without doing more than drawing a sketch in your mind, you start. You paint and let yourself be carried away by the memory of the feeling you had after a night in the club or on a rave. That's how you have to understand the creation of Chill Out, the album we are talking about today. A concept album on which there are at least as many opinions as on the question, are we alone in space? Some people think it's one of the most brilliant albums of electronic music of the 90s, because it obviously founded the genre chill out with its release. Others don't see anything of use for themselves in this idiosyncratic, seemingly random musical collage of borrowed snippets of fairly well-known songs from music history, samples of sheep, herding dogs, exotic birds, trains, cars, airplanes and synthesizer sounds recorded live. I decided to take Chill Out of the drawer and present it to you for one reason in particular. It has accompanied me on my way through the musical turmoil of the 90s. It is very reassuring to listen to the album when you have a not so good day. And last but not least, it is a trip that is hard to describe with words. You just have to listen to it several times to understand what makes Chill Out so special. Words will never be enough to adequately describe music, no matter what kind. But I hope I can whet the appetite of all those who might not know this album yet. Before you close your eyes once for the last journey, you should have listened to the KLF's Chill Out at least 10 to 50 times and above all, enjoyed it as in a relaxed way. After that, it doesn't really matter which word is waiting for you or if there's anything at all. A quick word about the makers. The KLF, which stands for either Kopyright Liberation Front or Kings of Low Frequency, are the British Bill Drummond and Jimmy Cauty, who have been going their own musical ways long before the album. At some point, they got to know each other through the music business and decided, let's do something together that differs from the usual pop stuff and where we can have lots of fun and experiment around. Besides obvious commercial success, such as the album The White Room, they left quite a few other footprints on the map of the electronic music world. So Cauty founded the project The Orb together with Alex Paterson. To the ambient fans, The Orb should be a well-known name. Further, the KLF remixed several pop projects of that time and helped some bands as an initial founding member with their experience in the music business to get on their feet, only to quit soon after this, dedicate themselves to new fields again. Why? Well, in interviews at the beginning of the 90s, Drummond and Cauty said, that they see their main role within the music scene in sharing their experiences with music projects to help them implement new ideas that have the potential to establish new music genres. And that the guys have stuck to this is evident from the fact that between 1991 and 96 they no longer released anything under the name the KLF, but continued to be active in their musical environment. After 97, there was really end of the party. They had several common activities in the public, but musically, Drummond and Cauty still go their own ways and have their own projects. Well, but now really back to the album. As you could already hear in the background, all kinds of sonic landscapes appear. I say landscapes because very specific sounds are embedded in the chorus of the album, which represent landscapes and also explicitly rural areas acoustically. So with a little bit of fantasy, you can imagine a night drive along the Gulf Coast of the States from the Mexican-Texan border to Louisiana. You remember my example with the big painting? Chill Out is our over 44 minutes long acoustic canvas, and the individual stations, the sounds to symbolize these geographical regions, are the many spots of color or lines or circles, whatever you want. After a while, a picture emerges on the canvas and the canvas fills up. Several times, looped synthesizer sounds dominate the background, over which samples of sheep are led, as well as the always recurring sound of a train, the melancholic sounds of a steel guitar, a preacher, Elvis' unforgettable voice, radio stations, and way more. It might be a bit irritating that Chill Out, according to the guys from the KLF, would probably stand for a night drive through the Deep South. But how do the Tuvan throat singers, the British and Russian radio stations, the Basque shepherds, and some other exotic things fit into this landscape? Calling the album Chill Out a night drive through the Deep South actually came up after the recording, after, let's just say this in a not so strict way, sound elements were mixed together purely according to aesthetic and musical preferences. In retrospect, the thought came up, man, it sounds like a drive through the South. But the exotic sounds simply gave the mix a multicultural touch without anyone really thought about before whether they would provide a meaningful context for the so-called night drive. By the way, it's remarkable that this album is not an extensively edited production, which was meticulously prepared and then digitally cut to the millisecond, the way you normally assemble an album on a computer nowadays. It was recorded live. But the KLF said that they had to start several times. It just happened that some small thing went wrong shortly before the end. I guess there were dropouts on the tape machines, or some unpleasant dissonances might have been caused by the synths. Well, something which you don't want to have in a totally relaxed ambient album. And so they had to start all over again. After 2 days, they had the one recording that the guys were happy with. And that's the Chill Out that we are listening right now, that we know and love since 1990. By the way, even though the album is one piece and there are no breaks in it, the album provides us a 14-part track list. Usually Some elements that one might consider a part of a song are played only for a short time, then they disappear somewhere in the endless carpet of sounds. Some tracks contain short snippets, which form the basis for independent tracks in the later album The White Room. For example, 3 AM Eternal and Last Train to Transcentral. They should be also familiar to electronica listeners who are usually less interested in danceable productions and charts in general. Okay, I hope I have aroused your curiosity for Chill Out, a piece of electronic music history that you can enjoy quite well without drugs. But still, you will always gonna lift up a few centimeters from the floor. Pay attention. And if you start to see sheep after halftime, you are pretty much on the right track on an extended trip into the ambient universe. Okay, friends of relaxed and relaxing electronic music, I say thanks for listening. A link to the album Chill Out can be found in the description below the video. If you liked this session, as always, write us something nice in the comments and check back next week on our channel. If you like, leave a thumbs up or press the subscribe button. You know, then we are pretty happy. My avatar will dream of electric sheep and I'm gonna chill out with my BFFs, Steven and Elvis. See you next time. Bye bye.